lovely viewers, and welcome once again to Afrovision. And here our focus is on Africa, African unity, sovereignty, and economic freedom. Last week, I made a video and I talked about President John Dramani visit to the AES member countries and to what extent that visit will inure to the unity of Africa, and then to also mend the relationship between AES and ECOWAS, right? Yeah, so first he went to Mali. I made a video and I spoke about the visit to Mali and then the speech he gave. Before we move forward, I want to urge you to subscribe and like this video. Yeah, once you subscribe and like the video, then YouTube will be able to recommend this video to more people to view in order for us to get the numbers in to propagate the African agenda, right? So thank you very much for, if you are a first timer, thank you very much for subscribing, thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for liking this video. And we promise you we are going to deliver. I chanced a video of a Western media that is trying to twist, to create an impression about the speech that President John Dramani gave in the Ghana's 68th anniversary day. He made mention that declassified documents from the CIA now shows that the CIA was involved in the removal of Dr. Kwame.
The verdict of history is now loud and clear. Declassified documents from the United States archives reveal that this was a coup inspired and engineered by the CIA.
Now, we all know Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah is the first president of Ghana, and he was the one who led Ghana to independence. And Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was big on African unity. And if you follow President John Dramani Mahama, he follows the Nkrumah's ideology. So in that speech, President Mahama made it abundantly clear that the classified documents from the CIA indicates that the CIA was involved in the toppling of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And this reporter reported it as though President Mahama is accusing the CIA of having toppled
celebrated Independence Day on Thursday. The country's president accused the CIA of toppling his government's founder.
This news, this newspaper. Is she telling me that she didn't read these books that were written by the then a son of the then U.S. ambassador to Ghana, who is now a Congress member in the United States? He wrote a whole book about what the father told him about how the CIA was involved in the politics of Ghana and Africa, and how the CIA connived with some unscrupulous Ghanaian politicians to topple Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
The verdict of history is now loud and clear. Declassified documents from the United States archives reveal that this was a coup inspired and engineered by the CIA. This remains the most regrettable and darkest moment in our nation's history.
We all know Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was a peacemaker. He was a unifier. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah spoke about how Africa can become united. Now, what
has ended. And thus, Ghana, your beloved country, is free forever. Independence is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of the African continent. Good. Without delay, aim at the creation of a joint African military command. There is little wisdom in our present separate effort to build up and maintain defense forces, which in any case would be ineffective in a major world conflict. If we examine this problem realistically, we would ask, which single African state could protect itself against an imperialist aggressor? And how much more difficult this would be when some states are allowing the imperialists to maintain bases on their territories. Only our unity can provide us with anything like adequate protection. Those problems can best be met within a unified Africa. Begin to build immediately our own continental common market. For it is easy for anyone who studies the Common Market Organization closely to realize that the common market is aimed at harnessing the African countries to satisfy the profit lust of the imperialist bloc and to prevent us from following an independent neutralist policy. It is easy to see that the imperialists and the colonialists are determined to retain the African countries in the position of suppliers of cheap raw materials. If we do not resist this threat, and if we throw in our lot with the common market, we shall doom the economy of Africa to a state of perpetual subjection to the economy of Western Europe. We must each see ourselves as part of Africa in order that we may face colonialist imperialism and its new form, neocolonialism, on a continent-wide front. Africa is rich and not poor.
President Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, we all know, inspired even so many African leaders. He inspired so many African freedom fighters, the likes of, we have Professor Pierre Lumumba now, and he was the same person. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah also inspired Patrice Lumumba, the then Prime Minister of Congo. And the same Westerners toppled him, killed him. So anyone who stands for the unification of Africa, they try to remove the person. And they made it abundantly clear in those documentaries about how they removed Muhammad Gaddafi. They made them abundantly clear in these documentaries. And it is not a hidden thing. To watch some of the speeches by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and President John Dramani Mahama and try to sync them, see how they are interrelated. President John Dramani Mahama, when he visited the AES member states, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, one thing was common: unification and brotherliness. That is one. Trade, that is two. And then a common defense force. A common defense force for Africans to be able to remove the terrorists that were brought to us by the West. They were poured into Africa by the West so that they can set up their military bases with the disguise of fighting terrorism and use that medium to siphon our mineral resources and take them back to their countries. And our African leaders are so dumb. Most of them are so dumb that they still play along with them and they don't even have the clue. And these things President John Dramani Mahama is saying were said by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Look at that time. How long? Dr. Kwame Nkrumah spoke about African Joint Military Force. He spoke about African free trade. He spoke about African free market. He spoke about African free movement. Okay? And that is it. And he said Africa must have its own currency, its own bank. And you don't have to go somewhere. I mean, come to think of it, many African countries now are, almost all the African countries now are 50 years and above old, right? Ghana is 68 years old. Of course, Ghana was the first sub-Saharan African country to gain independence. And we still depend on Western countries. We still depend on loans. We still depend on IMF and many other sources to build hospitals, schools, even toilets. Most African countries still depend on external source of funding to build toilets for their communities. What a shame. Okay, so let's look at some key points. So when President John Dramani Mahama embarked on this trip, he went to Mali first. Yeah, so in Mali, he was received very well, and the reception was very warm. He was given a calabash with water and a kola nut. That is African. That is African. I loved it so much. And he took it, and after that, he had a briefing with the media, and he made some key points. Then after that, he visited Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's statue in Mali. The Malians have uplifted Dr. Kwame Nkrumah even more than Ghanaians too. So they have a statue, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's statue in Mali, because he was, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and Modibo Keita of Mali, they were friends. They were very close friends and allies, right? And that was when the bond started. So John Dramani Mahama is saying that since Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's time, Modibo Keita and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah were friends. So he's just coming to solidify what already exists, and that was it. And he also thanked him for allowing the Prime Minister to pay a visit to his inaugural ceremony. And then after that, he said they talked about the trade route and all that. Then that was fantastic. That is what we want about Africa. The borders between African countries are not created by Africans. We didn't create them. We were one people. That is why you have the same tribe in Ghana, the same tribe in Togo, in Burkina Faso, in Mali, wherever. And you have the same tribe in Cote d'Ivoire, you have the same tribe in Rwanda, the same tribe in Congo, you have the same tribe. That is how we are interconnected. We were one people. There were no borders. We didn't create any border. So they created these borders in order to segregate Africa, to be able to control them. I said that Berlin Conference was the most demonic thing that has happened in this world. They see Africans as though we are nothing. Everyone thinks they can take. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who I spoke earlier on, he was a peacemaker. Even when he was removed from government, he was on his way to negotiate peace at Hanoi, to negotiate a peace between US and Vietnam, the US-Vietnam War, a war that created so many controversies. Muhammad Ali, the famous boxer, went to jail because he refused to go and fight at the Vietnam War.
In 1966, Muhammad Ali filed for conscientious objector status and announced his refusal to fight in Vietnam.
My conscience won't let me go shoot my brother or some darker people or some poor, hungry people in the mud for big, powerful America and shoot them for what? They never called me nigger. They never lynched me. They never put no dogs on me. They never robbed me of my nationality, raped and killed my mother and father. Well, I'm going to shoot them for what? How can I go shoot them? Them little poor little black people, little babies and children and women. How can I shoot them poor people? Just take me to jail.
The Vietnam War was one of the wars Martin Luther King fought strongly against. And yet Africans were taken and they were killed in these wars. So after taking our great-grandparents to go and work for you, to serve as slaves, to farm to work in your farms, they now took their children and grandchildren to go and die in wars, unnecessary wars on their behalf. And yet we were still maltreated in these countries. And that was why Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said he wants a future where his children will wake up one day and be judged by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin. And that he wants to wake up one day and see a black slave and a slave master sitting together and having tea, devoid of the color of their skin. This was the things that Africans fought for. So we still, up to now, we still don't like them. Yes, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah said, even if he died, Thomas Sankara, they all said that even if they die, they knew the people were after them. They knew their lives were at stake. So they said, even if you kill us, we will be born again. And look at what is happening in Burkina Faso. Thomas Sankara, just a year or so after he was killed, or some few months, then another Thomas Sankara was born, who is now the leader of Burkina Faso today. And look at the wonderful things he's doing. So this is what we want in our African leaders. Try to unify, try to stand on your feet. President John Dramani Mahama was in the MSC town hall meeting a while ago, and he spoke about the cut in aid of the United States to African countries. It's a call on African leaders to make budgetary allocations in their various countries to cover for what USA covered. even if they don't get any country to partner with, any Western country to partner with. And that is what we want. And so Ghana has already made an allocation for that, and he was now urging other African countries that he says that the disruption brings about a new world order. And that was a very powerful speech. It is a wake-up call on African leaders to become economically free, to gain your economic freedom, to take matters into your own hands, to take the development of your countries and the welfare of your citizens into your own hands, and stop buying properties outside the countries. What do you need? Look at your room. What area does your bed occupy in your room, and what area do you even occupy on your bed? And the whole room is useless. The whole house is useless. And you see an African leader buying 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses. For who? So instead of making the country better so that your kids and other people's children will come out and strive to survive and strive to build up and make the country better, you want to accumulate everything for your own children. That is greed. That is the kind of greed Dr. Kwame Nkrumah fought against. So this is what these Western media do. And if you track how they remove these people, you will see how the media reported them at that time. But unfortunately for them, this is not the time again. No one will condone that in Africa. You can misinterpret President John Dramani Mahama's speech any way you want it, but you can never persuade the Africans again. The Africa you see today are not the Africans you saw that time. The African youth you see today are on top of their games, and you cannot manipulate them by mere reportage. And so I think that journalist is a lazy journalist, a journalist who doesn't read, a journalist who doesn't know her job, and a journalist who just creates confusion. And so, yeah, and if you enjoyed this video, kindly subscribe, like, and share. And as I said earlier before, clicking on the like button will enable YouTube to recommend the video to many more viewers to be able to garner the numbers that we require in order to propagate the African agenda. Thank you very much, and see you in my next episode. Bye-bye.